So a lot of people in general are afraid of failure. How did you become one of those people who doesn't seem to be afraid of failing?
It doesn't exist. It's not existent. What the hell does that mean? Seriously, what does failure mean? It's not, it doesn't exist. It's a figment of your imagination. What does it mean?
You're pulling a Jedi mind trick on me right now. I was like, does it exist?
No, I'm serious. Like, I'm trying to think, like, how can I explain it? So, let's use happy endings, right? And then we can relate this to failure, why it's not existent. Like, you know, everybody talks about, like, everybody wants a happy ending, right? Now let's go to the reality of it, right? Let's look at a fairy tale story. Let's look at Snow White. She gets a happy ending, she finds Prince, whatever, she goes on, she lives happily ever after. Well, I call bullshit on that, because 2 months later, the fact is they had an argument and he's sleeping on the couch. Right? So the point is, the story continues. The story continues. So if you fail on Monday, the only way it's a failure on Monday is if you decide to not progress from that. Right? So to me, that's why failure is not existent. Because, you know, if I fail today, okay, I'm gonna learn something from that failure and I'm gonna try again on Tuesday. And I fail, I'm gonna try again on Wednesday. So it doesn't exist.
One of your high school friends said, when I was partying, he was playing basketball. When I was waking up, Kobe was playing basketball before class. How would you describe your dedication to the sport even back then?
Well, I tried to find a balance, right? I tried to do both. You know, I had a great deal of energy. So if there was a school party going on or something like that, you know, I'd play basketball for a few hours and I'd do what I had to do and have fun doing it. And then, you know, I'd go to the party. You know, I'd show up, I'd have a good time, have fun, and I'd be up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you know, working out and training the next day. So I try to do both.
Whether it be then or now, to what extent have you found yourself over the years having to forego hobbies, forego, even in some instances, close friendships to focus on basketball?
Yeah, well, there's obviously, I mean, a great amount of sacrifice because it is time consuming and you do have to really focus on your craft a great deal.
And do you realize it when you're going through it, or because you're so focused on what you want to do, you're just kind of oblivious to some of that?
It was probably different for me than most because it was this really I truly wanted to do. It's what I enjoyed doing. So it wasn't like I didn't feel like I was giving something up. I felt like I was gaining something because I enjoyed playing.
My name is Kobe Bryant, 17 years old, and I've been lucky enough to live not only in different parts of the United States, but Europe as well. One thing I had in common with some of my other students and classmates was basketball. And unfortunately, because of the lack of communication with my peers, I wasn't invited to parties or family gatherings on the weekend. So on Fridays and Saturdays, I would go in my rec room with my basketball and basically dribble myself to sleep. And I think that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Because during those lonely hours in the rec room, I discovered the hunger, the motivation, and the desire to be the best possible basketball player that I could be. And, you know, here I am today. It's a great feeling to know that you set a goal for yourself and you were able to reach that goal and to knock it down.
If your ratings go in the tank, and you know, which they won't, but if they did, you had learned a valuable lesson. You had learned a bunch of ways of how not to make a show that sucks. So then the next one will be better than the last one, right?
You know, that's, you know, whenever we speak, it's amazing to me how you make no apologies for the fact that you really don't miss it anymore. You put in your time, it's enough. You don't miss it. It's rare that you hear that from somebody.
I know, it's strange.
Yeah, it is strange.
It's strange, but it's a blessing, right? I mean, the thing, you know, when you grow up playing a game your whole life, and this is what you identify yourself with the whole time, it's very hard to find something else, you know? And I've been very fortunate and very blessed to have a passion that I love every bit as much as playing basketball. And so when that happens, I'm extremely fortunate. But for the young guys coming up, as you're going through your career, it's important that you start looking for things that you are equally as passionate about. Because when that music stops and the game is over, and you're just trying to figure it out after, you're already too late.
You've earned the right to be considered one of the greatest ever. There were times in your career where obviously people drew comparisons to Michael Jordan and we all thought Michael Jordan was the GOAT. Then you were like, I'm Kobe. This is the way that it is and that's the way it's gonna stay. But you don't hesitate to remind folks, look, this is what I did when I played. This is even before you retired. Numerous coaches, how you had to play point guard, shooting guard, et cetera, et cetera. When you reflect on your career, what's your standing in your mind? What's the story that you tell to yourself about yourself?
Well, did I give everything I absolutely had to this game? Yes, I did. Right? And so that is the most important thing. The rankings, all of that stuff is inconsequential. You know, rankings come and go, opinions change, it doesn't matter. Right? When you can look yourself in the mirror and say, did I give everything I could? Did I do everything possible to try to get better? If the answer is yes.
But don't you have an aspiration for people to see what you saw? Whatever that is. Like I remember one time you reminded me, excuse me, do you realize what I had to do this year when I didn't have X, Y, and Z? You did pay attention to those kind of things.
Well, man, at the time, yes. You know, as you mature and you get older, you understand, listen, it's not about that. It really isn't. Right? What you do is you do what you can with what you have. You know, everybody's path has a different narrative. Right? You try to walk yours to the best of your ability and let the dust settle where it may.
I think that's what we're leading here today in our TEDx talk is the power of the mind. And I think because, you know, there's been so many athletes that have made the NBA the highest echelon of professional basketball. And there's athletes that can jump as high as the sky, run as fast as a cheetah. They can get buckets, they can do that. But it's the special niche of players that have that mindfulness, that have that attacking mode, that relentless mode, that mode where they go ice cold last few minutes. You know, I think that makes a difference between the great ones and the greatest ones, right?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Like, to me, the mentality is a really simple one, you know, in the sense that the confidence comes from preparation. You know, so when the game's on the line, I'm not asking myself to do something that I haven't done thousands of times before, right? So when I'm prepared, I know what I'm capable of doing, I know what I'm comfortable doing, and I know what I'm not comfortable doing. Right? And so in those moments, if it looks like I'm ice cold or not nervous, it's because I've done it thousands of times before. So it's one more time.
So that leads me to talk about a lot of this Kobe tour this year in Asia. Is we reiterate the MAMBA mentality. You know, can you talk a little bit about what the MAMBA mentality is? Because that's something that's been developing over, I don't want to say 20 years, it's been developing for 35 years, since you were a little kid, that MAMBA mentality. Because you didn't start working when you got to the NBA, you started working when you were at North America, you were in Italy, you were 5, you were playing Nerf basketball, right? So talk about the development of the MAMBA mentality. The pillars, the 5 pillars of this MAMBA mentality, and then we'll kind of break it down.
Well, yeah, overall, the idea is very simple. MAMBA mentality simply means trying to be the best version of yourself. That's what the mentality means. It means every day you're trying to become better. And it's a constant quest. It's an infinite quest. So starting at the age of 2, when I first started playing the game, on and on and on, I always ask questions. I always try to get better every single day, learn more.
You were asking questions at 2?
Oh, dude, I was asking questions all the time. You'd be surprised. Like some people, like my kids at 2, you could do a lot of things. At 2, I could dribble a basketball. I could shoot a basketball on the roof at the house. And I would go to practice with my father. I would observe my father. I'd sit and watch games with him.
Was he your first coach?
Yeah, man, I guess you could say that. You know, a lot of things I learned by just being around him. So by the age of 6, I was already strategizing versus other 6-year-olds. At the age of 6, I figured out 6-year-olds couldn't dribble with the left. So I said, okay.
A lot of 12-year-olds can't dribble with their
Well,
left.
yeah, well, imagine 6. So, like, I was playing these 6-year-old kids. I would make them dribble with their left because I knew they couldn't. And so they dribble off their foot, pick it up, lay it up. Do it again. Dribble off foot, pick it up, lay it up. So at 6 years old, I had 63 points. And and I remember my dad.
So your 6-year-old self could beat your 38-year-old self because you only scored 60 in the last game.
Yeah, no, but I can dribble with my left though, so that's a problem. But yeah, I mean, listen, I just constantly looked for things to learn from, and I'm very observant.
Okay, so